Welcome everyone to the Speaking Part 4 Making Predictions Analysis. And I'm just here in the Speaking Part 4 section of the CELPIP library. And before we get started, I want to let you know that Speaking Part 4 it's not really for higher levels. What do I mean by that? I mean that you can't really get 7 or higher based on Part 4. Okay? Why is that? Well, actually, part 2, 3, 4, and 5, these questions aren't so complicated. And they should be questions that level 7 or higher, they should be able to answer these questions quite easily, okay? Now, that being said, that can work in a good way or in a bad way for you. Because if you don't answer questions, well, part 2, 3, or 4, 5, if you don't answer those questions strongly, then it could reduce your grade. Okay? So you still want to answer them strongly. Sometimes some students they speak really well in part 1 and part 6 and 7, which are for higher levels, but they speak really poorly in part 2, 3, 4, and 5. They make lots of simple errors or they say too simple ideas. And that can really affect your score, bring it down. Okay. Also, at the same time, because they are easier questions, I do think that higher levels, we have an opportunity here to really let our speaking shine because these parts should be easier for us to answer. Okay. So, also, I do want to let you know that I will be following the tips and strategies guide. And if you want those tips and strategies in that guide, you can, I'll leave a link in the description box, or you can find the Speaking Part 4 Tips and Strategies video in the Part 4 playlist, okay? And that's a more detailed analysis of the tips and strategies for this question. Okay, so now let's get started with a sample from Volume 1 called Post Office. Okay, and also Part 4 is a continuation of Part 3. If you remember Part 3 over here, Speaking Part 3, Volume 1, Post Office, same picture, okay, for Part 3. And so it's the same picture, just it's a different question, okay? So we did make a video just recently, we uploaded it about Part 3. So if you haven't seen that one, you can watch that video to kind of make the connection, okay? But it's really different because it's the same picture, but in this case, we need to predict, or what do you think will most probably happen next, okay? Now, as I mentioned, I will be following the guide, and basically for our guide, this is what makes it easy. It makes the question complexities lower, and that's because mainly the grammar that you want to use is simple grammar, future tense. But in our case, we should try to use more modals of possibility, or we should try to use those if we can. May and might, okay? So I'm going to try to be using those, okay? And now I'm just going to go to my board over here. Now, I will say that what we want to try to create is try to create some situations that you could imagine or you can imagine could happen based on this picture, okay? That's what we're going to try and do. We don't want to give too simple ideas like level 5 or 6, just say, this boy will do that, the mother will do this, the boy here will do that, this boy will do that. Those are kind of simple ideas, and that's for lower levels. You can still get 7 or, yeah, 7 with saying those ideas, but for higher levels, 8, 9, or higher, we want to try to create some kind of interest in situations, and that's what we're going to try to do. We start off by saying, I think several interesting situations will most likely happen next. Okay, just a general start to introduce the question. So let's see. Let's see what we can create here. Okay, we're at the post office. Okay, I see this boy and his mom. Okay, so what could they be doing at the post office? Let's see. Okay. Okay, here we go. Firstly, maybe the mother will tell her son to buy some postage stamps. Okay, simple enough. Okay, go buy some postage stamps. And after, they'll place them on her son's letter to Santa. Wow, what an interesting point. Well, it is around Christmas time, right? And we all know how children, well, at least children here in Canada, they still practice that fantasy of writing a letter to Santa. So this is why the boy and the mother are there. Now, the only reason why my class thought about that one is because it's around Christmas time. And I kind of gave them the idea. Maybe the boy's there because he wants to send a letter to Santa. Okay, so that's interesting. But we could also say a letter to Mickey Mouse or something like this. But maybe this is an interesting idea, right? And it can happen because we're wondering, why are they at the post office? So they'll place them on her son's letter to Santa. Also, he's going to ask for priority mail delivery. Okay, now that's another point. Priority mail. It's possible, right? You can get standard mail delivery or priority mail. Because he wants to make sure that Santa will get his letter before Christmas Eve. Well, right from the beginning, I think that's a strong idea. Now, everyone, I want to say about this idea that the reason we thought about this idea is because it's around Christmas time. Okay? But you have to keep in mind that this idea is a good example of us imagining situations that could possibly happen in or within this context. And that's why it's really good. Now, I will say maybe a little bit stronger vocab here with priority mail delivery. Also, something that higher levels should know. Okay. And in terms of grammar, I don't see anything really complex here, but the essentials, what we need. Future simple, will, they'll, and going to. Okay, we can say going to here or we can say will. Just going to is stronger, of course. Okay, so that was a really good idea to start off with. Okay, so let's see what's the second one we have here. Secondly, perhaps the elderly woman's packaging costs will be over $100. So she'll be flabbergasted at the charges. Okay. And decide not to send anything. So that's an interesting one because we do see this elderly lady, and we did say in part 3 that the elderly lady was this boy was helping out the elderly lady with her packages. Maybe she was going to send something, but she didn't know about these costs. So she is elderly. My mom is older as well. And usually when they have these costs, flabbergasted, very, very surprised. Yes, very, very surprised. Shocked. Shocked. Okay. So that's another really good word. Well, that's a really good word, actually. Okay. Then she might speak with the manager and complain about the shipping services costing an arm and a leg these days. Okay. So there we go. Okay. So several things to say about this second sentence. First, we used our modal of possibility, might, right? which is higher level. Okay. And then the second thing, again, the idea. Okay, so she's very upset. She's flabbergasted. So she'll say, "Oh, can I speak to the manager?" And then she'll speak to the manager and complain. Some people do that, older ladies, elderly people more. And then she'll complain about the shipping services. Shipping services, another. Costing an arm and a leg. Just means very expensive, okay? hmm That's just what costing an arm and a leg. Oh, it costs an arm and a leg. It's so expensive. So they were bringing out the expressions here. Very good. Again, whenever you have the opportunity, and this costing an arm and a leg, this expression you can use anytime we're thinking about costs, expenses, and very good expression. Okay, and so very strong idea here in this. Well, both are strong in different ways. This one about the letter to Santa, and this one here about well, the vocabulary, flabbergasted, and of course, costing an arm and a leg, which is an expression. Whenever we can use an expression, that's great. And we're using might as well, which is stronger. Okay, very good. So now what do we have last here? Okay, so lastly, I think the children will open their packages. So we were looking at this one over here. The children were waiting for their packages and they were so excited. We said that in the previous, in part 3. You can look at that video if you haven't. And so they'll open their packages, but their joy will come crashing down when they get the wrong toys. Okay, so their joy will come crashing down. Okay, crash down in terms of just, it means they will suddenly become very upset. Become very upset when we say will come crashing down. Something bad happened. So you will become upset. Good way to express their joy will turn to sadness or they will become unhappy. Okay, come crashing down. When they get the wrong toys. Okay, so they opened their packages, they got the wrong toys. Okay, so they'll be very disappointed that they may start to sob. Okay, they'll be very disappointed that they may start to sob. Sob. Almost like cry. Sniffles. Sniffles. Not really cry. Oh, where's my toy? Like that. Sob. Okay. Another good word. That's what children sometimes do. They're sobbing when they're sad. Okay. Very good. So their father, okay, thankfully to make up for it. Okay. So another good use of an expression here, to make up for it. So when something went bad, to make up for it means make it good. To make something that was bad good, or change the situation to positive. To make up for it, their father's going to rush them to the nearest toy store and get them anything they want. And soon, they'll have forgotten about their post office ordeal. Okay, well, very interesting here. Very interesting. I really wanted to say gonna here. I really wanted to say gonna. And don't forget that gonna, it's I want to use it here as well because gonna is the informal way, which is very common. And actually, most people speak with gonna. Native speakers usually just speak with gonna or want to, wanna. Okay. And I'll put gonna there just so we can practice that as well. Okay. Because it'll be another way to show our knowledge. But strong idea here in the last one. We have several expressions come crashing down to make up for it. Okay. And we also used stronger grammar. May start. modality might, may, okay? And also look down here, future perfect, future perfect, future perfect, will have forgotten, okay? And we used future perfect here because of the situation. And soon, soon, we're talking about some period. So soon they'll have forgotten about their post office ordeal. So from the time they left the post office until sometime in the future, we can say, let's say by the time they got home. We can change that here, okay? By the time they get home. Let's say that. By the time they get home, by that time, the period, they'll have forgotten about their post office ordeal or situation, negative situation, ordeal, negative situation. So that's what it means here, and soon. Same thing. I'm going to keep and soon here, just it's shorter. Okay. So, everyone, very strong answer, like always. Now, I want to make some things clear. First of all, this answer, if you can speak it, can even be 10, 11, or more. Actually, maybe even 12. It wouldn't be so easy for you to speak this answer, of course. This is only an example of what we can do to develop ideas. What's good about this answer? First, I think very important is the connection, okay? Or the situations we created. We created a letter to Santa. We created the older lady feeling very upset about paying the costs. And we created this situation about the children over here that were going to be very disappointed. So those things, okay, those things are, or those ideas and that connection and telling those kinds of stories, very strong, okay? And that's something that higher levels need to do. We can't give one sentence answers or ideas about what's going to happen, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, of course, that we've used really strong, well, let's be clear about grammar. I don't think that will or going to, I don't think that those are higher level grammar structures. Those are lower level grammar structures. And that's why this question is a lower level question. Okay? But when we use it very well, let's make sure we don't make any mistakes with will or going to. It's to our advantage. And also, we've used here might and may. If you can use more might and may, that would be better. And we even put in gonna, which is good, and future perfect. If you can do that, you can demonstrate that, that will be great, okay? And the last thing, I would say it's the last, not the first. The last, of course, it's our language use with costing an arm and a leg, with priority mail, with flabbergasted, okay? Post office ordeal, some of these words, and to make up for it, these expressions and words, they can be stronger. But again, that is the last, okay? It is speaking. It's not supposed to be somewhere where you can show strong or high level vocabulary. No, it's not. We just want to speak well with flow and give good ideas in a kind of like situation like I did. Okay, but about expressions, I would say that the reason why these expressions are here in this example, it's because expressions are very common in speaking. So if you can use expressions, that will really get you bonus marks, okay? So let's try to do that. Of course, the most important, can we speak this answer in 1 minute? And that's what I'm going to do here. Please, while I'm reading, please follow along. And try to focus on my flow and intonation to develop your fluency or improve that, okay? I think several interesting situations will most likely happen next. Firstly, maybe the mother will tell her son to buy some postage stamps, and after, they'll place them on her son's letter to Santa. Also, he's going to ask for priority mail delivery because he wants to make sure that Santa will get his letter before Christmas Eve. Secondly, perhaps the elderly woman's packaging cost will be over $100, so she'll be flabbergasted at the charges and decide not to send anything. Then, she might speak with the manager and complain about the shipping service costing an arm and a leg these days. Lastly, I think the children will open their packages, but their joy will come crashing down when they get the wrong toys. So, they'll be very disappointed that they may start to sob. Thankfully, to make up for it, their father's gonna rush them to the nearest toy store and get them anything they want. And soon, they'll have forgotten about their post office ordeal. Okay, everyone. Lots, yes, that was lots. It's very good practice for us. Okay, the to practice, what can we do? Well, the first thing that we can do is, of course, study the language, the structure, okay, the connection. Notice how everything, again, everything in blue is sequential. That's very important. That's something that higher levels need to work on to get to that level. And of course, the grammar. Let's make sure about the grammar, and let's try to practice focusing on these words and these expressions, okay? Let's try to practice speaking this in 1 minute. That will really improve your flow and fluency, okay? And of course, the big challenge will be, can you say all this in 1 minute from your knowledge, not from memory? Now, we might, if when you practice that, you might not say every single word exactly how it is, but you should be able to say, um, we should be able to say here, right? Secondly, perhaps the older woman will get her the charges for her packages, and it'll be over $100. So she'll be flabbergasted about the cost, and she'll decide not to get anything. Then she might speak to the manager and complain about shipping expenses costing an arm and a leg these days. You see? I didn't say it exactly how it's written, but I set the general idea, and that's something that we can practice. So for that, I'm going to be leaving a link in the description box to this question, okay? It has 5, 6, and 7, 9. And over there, you can practice, everyone. Let's practice. Let's practice speaking this sample answer, all right? And studying that sample as well. If you would like more speaking part 4 practice, let's subscribe to the CELPIP library. The CELPIP library has over 50 examples, test samples of speaking part 4 for that as well. Just at the bottom here, I will be leaving a link to purchase a library pass. And with discount code CELPIP79, you can get a 3-month subscription to the library for $10.99. That's a steal of a deal, everyone, and I strongly recommend it. Let's remember, everyone, practice makes perfect.